everyone. This is the video presentation to go with my writing in the PowerPoint that I um, made about Cattail in Ukraine. I have the PowerPoint pulled up and I'll be reading it, making some commentary and referencing my notes. I don't have a program that helps me pull up PowerPoint while I'm filming, so hopefully this is an audio that can be useful. There is a section where I have today's agenda or an overview of the topics that I'll be discussing. So there's the areas of growth where the different species of cattail will be and where you can find them, the therapeutic uses and constituents. These are common words and terms in this field, and the therapeutic uses are the benefits that you may have when taking this plant, and the constituents are generally the active ingredients that contribute to the therapeutic uses. There's the environmental potential, an example of cattail being a source or could be used for as biofuel. And then there's even other uses where people have found other ways to use cattail. I do have some quotes from my writing. So, although you can find 5 species of cattail in Ukraine, the most prevalent ones are Typha latifolia, or common cattail, and Typha angustifolia, which is of the narrow-leaved variety. Cattail is found along riverbanks and marshes, as it thrives in swampy areas such as the Dnipro lowland, I'm sorry about the pronunciation, alongside wetland plants such as reeds. As I mentioned before, there's the species Typha latifolia, common cattail, Typha angustifolia, narrow-leaved, and then the other species that you may come across are Typha laxmani, Loxman's cattail, or small cattail that's found throughout the southern parts of Ukraine. Notice that I'm saying Typha in the beginning of these, so that's the genus, and then the species is the second part of the scientific name or the Latin name, and that's going to be lowercase. Typha domingensis, southern cattail, that's less common, and then there's a hybrid, Typha excluca, hybrid cattail that's common and natural, cross between Typha latifolia and Typha angustifolia. Another um, quote, when using it for therapeutic uses, you'll see different results in constituents depending on the part of the plant that you're extracting from. So there can be different things that will affect the results, but for this specific topic, it is important to know what the plant is, and maybe even the anatomy. For example, uh, if you see certain parts of the plant and you're going to want to extract the constituent from a specific part, you will make sure that you're not going to get maybe a rhizoid mixed up with the root. Rhizoid is the underground stem and it differs from the root. And there's cases where it's in a specific part of the plant. It can be in more in one area of the plant. It can be in it could be maybe throughout the plant as well. So it would depend. And there's also different preparations, and I'll make a presentation on maybe those types of preparations. Say if you're using aerial parts, it would take less time for you to extract those constituents compared to the parts of the plant that are underground that will take longer. This is a specific kind of area that was addressed when I went to school. So herbs used as a preventative rather than treating the ailment itself, with some of the supporting reasoning and for specific circumstances too, can take longer to see the effects, is typically slower acting and usually less harsh than certain medications. And even if modern medication is technically a delayed release, takes longer for the medication to um, take effect, or you'll see it throughout the day. This is common with ADHD medication where maybe a patient goes to school and they don't want the immediate effects right from the beginning. Then they'll want it to last throughout the school day, maybe even longer. You may consider having a different type of release. And for other cases, you might want to have an immediate release. In general, herbs, because that's one of the reasons of being a preventative, it takes a while for you to see the benefits or the effects at times. Um, Even when they have differing therapeutic margins. Um, so it does tend to have maybe a gentler effect, if you will. And that could be something to consider because modern medicine, it sometimes has a big impact on the body. And there can be times, and it's not for every time, where it could lead to some dependency, or the medication uh, does take its toll. But there can be other cases too where it's important because if it's a specific type of ailment or disease that's present. So, uh, again, well, I didn't say it in this video. This isn't something that's I'm not prescribing anything. This is an overview on cattail in Ukraine. So I do have a section of showing some plant parts. I don't show all the plant parts, but I thought it would be interesting to mention because the next section does talk about the therapeutic uses and constituents that contribute to those therapeutic uses. So I do mention pollen, and pollen in um, cattail is interesting because you usually see like this type of plant that is more narrow, and the general part that you see, like the brown part of it, there's even more where it is kind of like the top pointier part and it's golden and it's powdery. Sometimes it can be like considered a flower supplement. So that part of it is the male part, and some plants have male and female. So this can be the case too. Um, Rhizomes, as I mentioned, they're the underground stems that are different from the roots, and I thought that would be something to mention just in case, especially when you're trying to extract something specific from the plant. There's the seeds, also interesting. That's more like towards the bottom. Kind of reminds me of like the dandelions. And this isn't a plant that insects normally pollinate, just to say. This is more of something that gets dispersed with the wind. So, um, that that would be like the fluff. And then I talked about the leaf and flower extracts. And this is a specific plant. I mean, the leaves may be more apparent, but then the flowers do have more of a uniqueness to them in terms of like how they appear and the way that the anatomy of cattail in general, its appearance is pretty unique too. So going into the therapeutic uses and constituents, there's the pollen. I put more of this in my writing, but I chose these sections. Um, I think they specify more of what it can be used for with linking the constituent to its use. So for pollen, there's arachidonic acid helps with inflammation in certain cellular processes. And then testosterone palmitate, appeasing infertility, which is not surprising with that connection. There's the rhizomes, expia physalechin, and aphthalalechin. They're antioxidants. Rhizomes are also rich in starch, and they can serve as an energy source and help with weight gain. There's the seeds, linoleic acid. They're polysaturated omega-6 fatty acids. The leaf and flower extracts are associated with antimicrobial properties, jelly-like substance in leaves. I thought that this was pretty useful. Numbing, analgesic, again with analgesic, pain in mind, and then it can be used. Anti-inflammatory and antiseptic for wounds. Then there was generally like what you would think it being an antiseptic for wounds. There was some usage for like maybe insect bites, varying types of those uh, types of wounds. And then for fiber, soluble and insoluble soluble fiber aid in digestion. I do continue talking about fiber in the next slide. Then there's another quote. The soluble fiber helps with cholesterol and absorption. Then insoluble fiber moves with waste. Um, and cattail also contains sterol, which is similarly structured to cholesterol. Its mechanism of action is to reduce cholesterol absorption in the gut and results in excretion. Additional information that wasn't really fitting in the chart, and then I put fiber continued because it didn't fit in the chart either. The plant-derived flavonoids and phenolic compounds such as or act as antioxidants that neutralize harmful free radicals, which can be found throughout the plant. And usually, when you hear about free radicals or that type of neutralization, um, it's mainly associated with like anti-cancer properties or some type of cardiovascular property. Typha angustifolia has specific resides in its pollen, and cattail's pollen has been used in traditional medicine as a coagulant and may help with anemia. Some information about the nutritional value. It's more of an extension. So some may roast the roots if they're eating it. Others may eat the young stems raw. Can be eaten for vitamins and minerals. Some examples are vitamin C, phosphorus, riboflavin, potassium, beta-carotene, and thiamine or aliphenamine. Um, Vitamin C and flavonoids are believed to lower lipids and help prevent atherosclerosis. Other types of heart conditions are like cardiovascular effects. Then going into the section of biofuel, specifically talking about the stems, can be used for biofuel or thatch. Cattail is part of a closed loop system, and that's when its rapid nutrients absorption from water, um, specifically phosphorus, becomes a useful resource instead of a hindering byproduct of pollution, so that's helpful due to its excess nutrients. This occurs during growth periods and it can improve water quality. And when you're harvesting cattail, it can be made into different forms of fuel, and some examples are pellets, solid fuel, bio-oil, and ethanol. Cattail biofuel lessens the need for petroleum products and therefore offsets carbon emission. I thought this was interesting information too. Can be a source of wage. Um, I figured I would add this on. It can be a positive impact on rural economics and not interfere with food production that's outsourced by agricultural lands. And then lastly, the high purity and abundant resource for cellulose industries that use water-based fibers and suspensions of paper. Now with this description, with it being cost effective, a way to make hydrophobic aerogel, you'll kind of see like, I guess like the appearance that can have like a be reminiscent of the hydrophobic aerogel. Extremely, um, well, it is making it, but an extremely porous material that halts moisture absorption and repels water, so it would make it in its own way. And then leaves, used to weave baskets, hats, and then there's hats that are made with their hair. So hopefully this was an interesting presentation. This was a little last minute because I did have um, a writing on Cattail that I really wanted to talk about, and I'm happy that I was able to make this PowerPoint for it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.